Are you progressing if you are a student? Do your children progress at school or no? Ask yourself, how do you know? You cannot know that your child is progressing or you are progressing unless you compare yourself with others. The others in the classroom or at the school level or at the country level. Perfection is the key concept in Islam. Finally, if this question, as the Prophet ﷺ said, أعطي كل ذي حق حقه, give the due rights for every person who deserves the right. You, as a listener, have the right to talk. That's why they give you 15 minutes for questions and answers. I have the right to drink some water while I'm speaking, and they gave me the water here. This is my right, and they fulfilled my right. It is here, beneath me. Every one of the human beings has some rights. Your kids has a lot of rights upon you as a parent. Your kids have a lot of rights upon you as a teacher. Do you give them the rights that they deserve or not? These are very important issues. This is the thing that takes us to the level of professionalism under the Islamic concept of أعطي كل ذي حق حقه. Give each one who has rights upon you his or her rights. When you are as a father, did you select the best school for your child? On the day of judgment, you know the concept of accountability. Your kids will catch you from your neck and will tell Allah, oh Allah, he did not give me the right. He had the money, but he didn't want to spend it on me on the right school. Or he supported me to be an engineer or a doctor, and I wanted to be a da'i like Dr. Zakir Naik. He is the one who has driven me to be a good businessman, and he deprived me from being an imam to lead the people and guide the people. It's not as easy as you think. If I ask you how many of you want their kids to be doctors and engineers, I think all of us will raise our hands. And if I ask you how many of you want your kids to be teachers, make a test. How many of you want their kids to be teachers? Raise your hand if you are brave. 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 hands. What is the result? The best students would go to the profession of in medicine or in engineering, and the bad students would go to the profession of teaching. And what happens after that? All the coming generations will suffer from these bad teachers because they were not smart and they did not get enough training, and our kids and we as parents will suffer from this because of our own mistakes, because of our own way of thinking. We were chasing life. We know that doctors and businessmen get the money. This is where money is. And you find on people fooling us. So we want to do this as service for humanity. Oh, thank you. We know that. Service for humanity. But in reality, it's service for themselves because this is where the money is. Islam does not deprive you from this at all. But if all the people think in this direction, the result will be this. Our kids go to schools that the teachers are not qualified, and they wouldn't be able to give our children the rights they deserve because of the way we think and how we directed our kids to the wrong direction. It is our responsibility, and that's why I began with these parameters that on the top of them is كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Each one of you is responsible, is a shepherd, responsible for the ones who are beneath him. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jazakallah khair Sheikh Mamdouh Mohamed for a very fitting, educational and inspiring talk. Again, we're going to have 25 minutes for a question and answer session, inshallah. The format will be exactly the same, but I'll remind you of how it will be. We have one mic at the front, one mic at the rear for the gents, and one for the ladies in the back. We'll begin from the first mic and go in a rotating fashion like this. We give preference of questions to non-Muslims. So if you are a non-Muslim, you wish to ask a question, just let one of the volunteers know and we'll put you to the front of the queue. Please make sure that all of your questions are on the topic at hand. Keep your questions brief and short and speak very clearly and loud. Also, do not forget to state your name and your profession. So we'll begin from the first question from the mic at the front, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum to all.
Alaikum assalam.
My name is Talat Ansari. I am from Orange City, Nagpur, Maharashtra. My question is it good to admit our children in schools which are run by missionaries, which Islam does not encourage? Their activities, their dresses, their earnings, their teachings, which Islam does not encourage?
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Would we allow our children to go to schools that made by missionaries? It's as simple as this. Is it possible to teach my kid another religion instead of Islam? This is one way of looking at it. But there's another way which is fair. If we go into these schools and we see exactly what's happening there. And the common feature in missionary schools is that they insert part of their beliefs in their teaching, which means that we are exposing our children to change from Islam into the religion of these schools. In other words, we are helping to achieve the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ by our choice, because it was the choice of the parents to select that school, and they put the student in that school, and now they are helping their child to get another religion. And sometimes you would find if the teacher is qualified and makes his teaching attractive, he would lead the students to love the teacher, and the love of the teacher here would lead to the love of the new religion. In other words, we are the ones who took our kids and put them and made them victims of our own choices. I hope the answer is clear.
The next question from the back for the sister.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is with regards to the classical debate of nature versus nurture. As teachers, we have many students in class who happen to be introverts, shy by nature. How do we as teachers develop, encourage them to have leadership qualities so that they face the various challenges in life, yet we do not intimidate them and let their individual personalities remain intact? Am I clear with my question?
So what is the question? How can we develop them to be leaders?
How do we instill, imbibe leadership qualities in them?
Okay.
Conflict resolution, students who are introverts and shy, without intimidating them.
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair. I think this is a very good question related to the lecture. The answer is it depends on the age of the child. As I mentioned, if the child is very young, the way to develop his personality to be a leader in the long run is to give him options at school, is to give him some time to work independently. I want you to do this job. I want you, even at home, you can give your child an assignment, simple assignment. I want you to put these plates in the right place and leave him to work. Go to do another job and leave. I want you to do it in 3 or 4 minutes. I'll come back to you. Leave him to work independently. So as early as possible, you can cultivate this culture of working independently. So when the child grows, this is one quality of the leaders. They work independently. By the way, they can do that. Okay. Then when children grow little by little, you can make some activities like group work. When we go to some classes, yes, we divide the students into groups. And each group would be given a task. And the students would be working together to do this task. So working together is one part of leadership. And you select one of those students to come and report after the discussion. So you are giving some environment of growing up and raising some leadership. And again, the more you are educated in this, the more workshop as a teacher or as a parent, the more workshops and the more training you get in this area, the more you will be able to teach others. You can see the sign of leadership, for example, of this conference by having this huge number of volunteers. Why? It's quite obvious that the leader of this conference is well trained to be a leader, and that's why he managed to get this. So I'm saying that part of it is you need to get some training in this. Jazakallahu khair. I hope I answered your question.
Shirk, innovations, showing off, crimes against society, crimes against the family, crimes against yourself. Why do you think evil and corruption has appeared on the face of the land and in the sea? It is because of the evil which the hands of men have put forth. Sins darken the heart, take us away from Allah's mercy, and lead to our destruction and corruption. In order to avoid evil, you need to understand it. Join me, Abdurrahim Green, for a new series discussing the major sins, only on Peace TV.
To know the most serious and bad sins, as well as how to refrain from them, join Abdurrahim Green in Major Sins every Friday at 3:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 2 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV.
Where truth is hidden, misleading quotations create confusion. Where truth is hidden, lack of knowledge and wisdom cause upheaval and commotion. Where truth is hidden, manipulated scriptures and twisted facts emerge. This very hidden truth creates false propaganda, mayhem, chaos, disorder, and turmoil in our lives and the world order. But is there anyone with courage and wisdom? What is the truth, and who has the courage to expose it? Because it's your right to know the truth.
Watch Truth Prevail and Lies Perish in Truth Exposed by Dr. Zakir Naik every Saturday to Thursday at 9 p.m. and repeat telecast at 7:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. With skill and strategy,
defend Islam.
with patience and positivity,
Protect yourselves from doubts.
with hope and humility,
To have belief that Islam is the only correct religion, the only truth.
learn the techniques that help in facing emerging challenges to Islam. Join Haitham Al-Haddad in The Art of Defending Islam, next on Peace TV.
The next question from the front mic.
Yes,
Assalamu alaikum. Could you please suggest precautions need to be taken care while growing children or nourishing them?
course.
And few books, could you please suggest which help us?
Again, thank you for the question. Very, very good question. But I think that how can you sum up the whole life of a student 16 or 18 years in that? As I said, as early as possible, be sure that the input that goes to your child is an Islamic input. Whether it is at home, whether it is when he or she goes to the school. Do you read the books that your child read? Do you sit beside your child and guide him while he's learning so that you would be able to know that what he learns is Islamic concept? For example, in some books of physics, and this is very common in the world, they would say that nature created for us such and such and such. Nature created the mountains for us. Nature created the rivers for us. It is Mother Nature that caused tsunami to happen. It's Mother Nature. When you see this in the books, you definitely need to teach your child even before you read that, because as early as possible, you had already built up in the personality of your child that the only one who creates is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not Mother Nature. So you can, that your child now is ready not to accept that nature is the creator, but it is Allah is the creator. When you are aware of the curriculum, when you visit the school from time to time, you would know where are the things that would threaten your child. Even if you are beside your child and watching a Mickey Mouse or whatever, and you would see that some of the things, a cartoon puts its hand like this and pulls the moon from the sky and starts to play with the moon, as sometimes we see in some of these cartoon issues. You need to be smart to warn your child. This is not true. This is just, yes, a cartoonish thing. This is not reality, because nobody can bring the moon and put it on the planet except Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So by knowing yourself, the religion, you know the religion first, and that's why it's good to find all those people. Now you are learning your religion, and you monitor what your child is exposed to. You monitor the input that comes to your child as much as possible. Okay. Jazakallahu khair. Yeah.
The next question from the sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
I'm Tabdi Sansari and I'm a student. Competition is increasing day by day. So as a student, I would like to ask you how to increase our concentration in class, and could you please give me some tips to score above the average? Thank you.
There are some, even many books have been written about, yes, study skills. This is a skill. And I wonder, for example, how many of us read a book about study skill? Raise your hand. I see only one hand, two hands. And the result is, if we don't read, we don't know. There are many things that you can do. And a lot of people did our work, and at least Sheikh Google and Sheikh Yahoo would lead you. Once you enter this data in the internet, you will find a lot of study tips that would help you concentrate in the class. One of these tips, for example, if you come to the class prepared for the lesson. So if you have read the lesson before you arrive to the classroom, you would have an idea about what is going on. And there will be some questions that you don't know. So you will be focusing because you are become keen to know the answers of these questions that you did not know while you were preparing for the lesson. This is one of the tips. again. Another tip, for example, and this would be very good for the teachers to do. When I said that group work, when you divide the students into groups, there are many reasons behind that. We can give a couple of lectures about this. But one of the good things about it is that people learn from their peers more than they learn from the people who are older than them. Let me explain this. When you put your kid to play with other kids who are of the same age, into natural thing. If you visit a family and you have a child who is 5 years old, and this family has 3 children, one of them is 9 years old, one of them is 5 years old, one of them is 12 years old, naturally you will find the child going to the other child who is 5 years old. They can communicate better. And that's why one of the goals of peer teaching is that when they make group work, they have a chance to explain to each other. People of the same age communicate better. That's why I advise, if you are a teacher, if you are a parent, let your child play with the people who are of the same age or a little bit higher than them. This would make them learn quicker and better. These are some of the tips, and I hope you ask Sheikh Google or Sheikh Yahoo to guide you, to give you some references. It's very easy for us. Just write study tips, yes, or ask the same question that you asked me, how to focus or how to concentrate in a lesson. Jazakumullah khair.
Assalamu alaikum Sheikh, this is Abdul Karim Iqbal Thakur, and my question to you is that today we know that science and technology plays an important role over here. And we know that science is everywhere. I mean, science is the only source where we can go ahead right now. But nowadays the school, they teach us that science and religion are totally different. They teach us like that. I know personally many of those schools who teach that science and religions have nothing to do with each other. I mean, they are not compatible. Just as because their religion is not compatible, that does not mean Islam comes in that circle. How can we deal with this issue? Not only school teaches that, but also the media, the news channels are continuously debating on this particular issue. But we know that Islam plays an important role in science. We know that Islam is supreme and will conquer in the world, inshallah. But what about the schools who teach our children that science and religion are not compatible?
Yes, Jazakallah khair. I think this is also a very important question. The schools do something, and we can do something opposite. But before we defute the school, we make refutation of what they say, and we teach our kids the opposite thing. Before that, as I said, that we have a long time when the child is at home before the child goes to the school. When you cultivate the culture of love and trust between you and your child, the child will trust you, and this trust will translate into obedience. This is exactly what happens between us and Allah. We trust Allah, and that's why we obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you develop this culture of trust, when your child sees that you are a father who doesn't make lies, who does not cheat, who does not, treat people badly, who is fair and just with his spouse, with the other children, with the other people. When your child sees you having all these good Islamic qualities, he will trust you, he would love you. So he would learn the lesson of obedience. Once this is cultivated in the heart of your child, when he comes from school and tells you, Dad, I learned today this and this, or you are sitting beside him, studying, reviewing the same lesson, easily for you to correct him. Not everything that you read on the newspaper or in the books or by other people is correct. Why? Because simple answer is that we are human, and humans make mistakes. Very simple answer. So the child would know this. Quality of human beings is that they make mistakes. So not everything that we read is correct, except what is written in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the authentic hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the child grows and he knows this culture, and he would be able to filter by himself. He would come to, is it possible that Allah would contradict himself? Just, of course, it's impossible logically, because the whole universe will crash down. So that's why the one who created science is the one who created the mountains. So how can he contradict himself? So when you develop this culture in the brain of your child, right, he would know by himself that this is, of course, fake and this is wrong information. Jazakallah khair. I hope, inshallah, I answered your question.
Jazakumullahu khaira. We're out of time for the question and answer session. So I'd like to thank immensely, may Allah reward him, Dr. Mamdouh Mohamed, for his talk. May Allah reward you immensely. Jazakallahu khaira.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Shukran lakum jami'an. Jazakumullahu khairan.